is really so aligned with everything that I did to lose the weight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We have connected through business.
Yeah.
Separately. And now the two of us are talking about weight loss. So it's
We are
wonderful.
talking about weight loss. It's exciting.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do today was share a little bit. We've had so many conversations just in recent times, because CarolAnne has gone through a weight loss journey, which she had never really experienced before. So we thought it would be really interesting to actually share with people who follow us and who enjoy what we have to share, to actually share. Sorry, I keep saying share, but anyway, to show you what CarolAnne has been doing, I suppose, in terms of her own weight loss journey. So just to give you a little bit more background to myself first, I'm a weight management mentor and coach for the last 19 years, helping people to lose weight and keep it off, but teaching them to understand that it's not all about the food. I suppose it's teaching them to understand how to fall in love with themselves again. And CarolAnne has just introduced herself, so what I'm really excited to have this conversation today. I've seen so many clients falling into similar pitfalls to that CarolAnne has fallen into. So I'd love you to just share a little bit about how you actually gained the weight in the first place, CarolAnne. Okay.
Yeah, in the beginning, I think a lot of people put some weight on early on in the pandemic, and I was no different. And there was sort of a joking about that. Oh, it's here in the States, maybe the COVID-19, we called it, it's kind of like the freshman 15 in college. I know you called it there in Ireland, the stone, the COVID stone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
12 pounds, right? And so the beginning of it sort of went on like that. And in my life, I've gained 5 or 8 or 10 pounds even after a vacation or going through a stressful time or something like that, but I could easily get it off.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it started off like that, but then it definitely began to kind of take on a life of its own and sort of snowball. Very definitely related to the stress. Like I had taken on, online business for the first time and working in technology and shifting into a world that was so different than anything I'd ever done as a physical therapist or as a healer. And so there was a lot of stress that went along with that. And then parenting, children at different stages of their life. And so, I definitely was able to observe the connection to stress. And, just because you're so busy working longer hours, maybe just grabbing what's easiest or eating for comfort. I found that I would eat when I was procrastinating. And because I was doing things that were uncomfortable, I found myself procrastinating a lot. And food was like giving me comfort or making me feel good or giving me an excuse to go do something else. And so as a mindfulness practitioner, I was the observer of sort of all these patterns that came into eating. I wasn't just eating to eat, and I wasn't necessarily not eating healthy, because I've always eaten healthy, but I was definitely just, eating emotionally and eating more often than normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what my clients all experience, is it's all about the emotional eating, really, isn't it? And the cravings that they experience around all of that, I suppose, the habits that they have on a daily basis. So, did you find that, those sort of issues were at the forefront of everything?
Absolutely. And I think maybe I didn't notice that at first. It wasn't until I kind of hit rock bottom and was like, enough is enough. And I realized that like the traditional weight loss things that I tried that weren't working, I was like, let me hit this with what I know, which is mindfulness. And when I really hit it with mindfulness, I was like, oh my gosh, what you really want is a hug. And in your eating, because it makes you feel good. Like we get a dopamine hit when we eat. And so what you really want is to feel supported, and eating was making me feel that way. And so it kind of made me go inward and look at like, what's underneath here? Like, what are the things I'm not looking at? Right. And some of it with that whole just grabbing what's easy, it's like getting into the habit of not prioritizing or having structure around your time, and so there definitely were a lot of things I noticed when I started looking at it where, I was feeling, maybe at times alone, or feeling like I just wanted things to be easier, or I wanted support. And I was eating to fill those voids, or I was just grabbing something easy and not prioritizing myself because I was,
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks for sharing that, CarolAnne, you know, because it is kind of at the crux of what people feel, I suppose, and experience when they're trying to lose weight, you know, or when they're gaining the weight in the first place. And you know, another issue that I regularly notice is, and it's something that I find has to be addressed pretty quickly, is the negativity that clients experience when they're looking in the mirror, for example. You know, that self-talk that just drags them down. Was that, you know, given your background, I'm really interested, was that something that you experienced, or, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the funny thing is, in you know, over in the last, you know, 15, 16, 17 years of my spiritual journey, I had done a lot of work around body image. Like, we get so much messaging about what we're supposed to look like. And I there were times in my life where I really sourced my value from whatever size I wore, stuff like that. And I had done that work. And so like, I was having conversations with myself where it's like, you know, this doesn't mean you're any less beautiful. This doesn't mean you're any less valuable. You know, like, that's work that I had done. Um, but there were other messages that I found coming through. Like, I'm 52 years old. I went through menopause. And so I found myself
Yeah.
sorting through, well, you know, it's normal at this age to gain weight through your middle. Oh, it's normal at this weight. Like, my mother, I remember saying, oh, now you have that shelfie hip thing going on. That when you
Oh,
get menopause.
okay.
And I found myself
Oh,
struggling
there's
with, yeah, and I found myself struggling like, oh, is this something I need to accept? Like, is this societal norm or cultural norm or gender norm, like, something that I now have to accept and love and embrace and well, or do I have to accept that narrative, right? And is
right.
it okay as a, you know, a person or woman, if you want to feel good in your body? Like, I actually kind of struggled in different ways with that self-love negative messaging, where it took me to places where it's okay to want to look good in your body. There's no shame in that. It's okay to want to feel good in your body. So I was the observer of that. But even from the standpoint of aging and what we accept as normal for aging, I found to be fascinating. I think in the end it came around to like how I felt, you know, health wise. That's really the thing that drove me. But certainly that you know, that self-love and with our body image thing came up for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and that is obviously a huge issue for people, you know. So it's great that you found the mindfulness, you know, using the right practices
It's huge.
helped you with that.
Yeah.
And you know, I suppose another thing that's very interesting for me, knowing you as well as I do, CarolAnne, is, you know, you've been so passionate about health and eating well for many years. So, you know, it's kind of surprising, really, that you know, how did this all change in order for you to gain the weight?
I know, right? I mean, like, if anyone knows me, I am sort of neurotic about health, and for good
Mm,
reason. I had health issues in my early 20s, you know, two little scrapes of death in my early
mm,
20s, and used food and healthy eating to heal myself. Like, in my 20s, I
yeah,
healed myself. And I always say I was organic before organic was cool. Like, it wasn't in the grocery store. I used to have to belong to a co-op, and at certain periods of my life, I was really obsessive, but it came to a really nice place where just 80% of the time or 90% of the time, I eat really healthy. And so weight from the standpoint of eating unhealthy food was never an issue for me. Um,
okay,
so it was actually, there were many times, Margaret, where I was like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because, you know, I started to have experiences with digestion and experiences with, you know, hot flashes, maybe
mm,
even sometimes having like feeling like my heart was racing sometimes. And I was like, is this a part of aging? Like, where's this coming from? But it really was all tied to the food. Even there were times where I was having like anxiety, that after I went through like the mindfulness component of this weight loss, I realized that was tied to certain foods as well. So, you know, how did I get there? I was eating later at night than I normally would. I was definitely more sedentary because I was working on building this computer thing.
mm,
I was, you know, usually more active. That joking about the weight thing is huge too. It's almost like
yeah,
creating a reason for it to be okay or to justify it somehow, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And then I think really like a lot of it too was just sort of getting out of my habits and routines, because I was so busy that I had made maybe eating healthy or prepping food a lower priority for myself.
yeah,
And so it's a
yeah.
combo of a lot of things. But believe me, there were many times where I thought, how did I get here? You know, I'm
Mm,
like this
I
health
know.
and wellness person, and I'm in this downward spiral. And it was a downward spiral. Like I hit a point where I realized that if I didn't do something to change, I was gonna keep gaining weight. Like those last few months before I hit my rock bottom, I just kept gaining weight, even though I was trying not to. And I know
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people express that over the years, where they're like, no matter what I try, whether I eat healthy or I exercise, it doesn't matter. I'm still gaining weight. Like I experienced that. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah, and that's really hard, isn't it? You know, and so many people who reach out to me say that I have tried everything
yeah,
and nothing works, you know. So, and I suppose you know, you've shared a good bit now about how you actually gained the weight, CarolAnne. What would be good is maybe share a little bit about how it made you feel,
yeah,
because I know how difficult it is when the weight goes on and how much it can drag you down.
yeah. I mentioned I had some shame, right, around that. Um,
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't I it was after the fact, like looking back and feeling what I had gained, that I realized in retrospect what I had been feeling. And kind of never before in my life had I had really like issues with confidence, in work or relationships. Not, I
Mm.
mean, we all do at times, but I'm saying
Yeah,
major. But
yeah.
I thought like maybe the issues that I was having, like confidence wise or whatever, just because I was trying new things in business, right? Like tech
Yeah,
things. I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at tech, right? But then realized that I was
yeah,
in the same business situation, but feeling way better because I felt better in my body, right? I felt
yeah,
better like I felt more like myself, and I felt not even just lighter from a weight perspective, but just lighter, right? I don't know, Margaret, if you
yeah.
had people share just feeling like lighter in general. So I was feeling better in my body, which made me feel better in my whole life. And oddly, as I got myself more structured and aligned with food again, like as I built my relationship with food again, it
Okay.
changed my relationship, my interpersonal relationships. It changed my relationship with like my house. Like all of a sudden I was more structured and like cleaning around the house. Like, I'm really
Okay.
shocked as to how many things shifted and changed, because I kind of felt like I came back home in my body.
Yeah.
How my
Wow.
relationship with life changed too. It's hard to explain unless you've experienced that. Even my relationship and understanding of aging, um, it shifted and changed a lot by me taking back of control in this way.
Okay.
Makes
Yeah,
sense?
that
Okay.
is amazing.
I feel like
And
I rambled.
I do know what you mean, because you know
Yeah.
I have had my own weight loss journey as well, you know, a number of years ago at this stage. And you know, obviously I gained a little bit during COVID times as well. As you said, we call it the COVID stone or whatever. I didn't gain that much, but I did gain a couple of pounds. I suppose the perspective is a little bit different when you're in lockdown like that, you know. But I do know what you mean, and you do
Yeah.
always feel better and lighter in yourself when you shift those
Yeah.
pounds, you know. And I suppose, you know, there is such a societal norm, you know, that this whole thing of, you know, models and being stick pin insects or whatever we call it, insect, you know, stick insect thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
um you know, that whole feeling, I know that is shifting, and you can see it is shifting in society, but it is still there as
Absolutely.
well. And it conjures up the wrong image, this nearly unattainable thing, doesn't it? It's crazy.
It really does. And, I do think it's shifted. I think it's great. We see, mannequins and models in magazines of all different shapes and sizes, and we
Yeah,
celebrate women who are like strong and women of all sizes. And that's one of the reasons, like we talked about sharing a before and after picture, and I felt really uncomfortable about that because my unhealthy weight might be someone else's healthy weight. I'm not trying to say that one size is better than the other, but it comes down to how you feel in your body. And it is hard to feel good in your body when you have this distorted view of what we're supposed to look like, that we've been given
yeah.
our whole lives by society and Instagram filters and stuff like that. I found myself even, well, a lot of photos I was like, delete that photo, or I would find myself, well, let me stand this way, because we do. And as much, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that, but we don't want to look that way. um
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I definitely experienced being the observer of all of those
Mm.
norms and that messaging that we get.
Yeah.
And again, there was that other layer as a woman aging and in menopause. It's almost like at some point we were given permission, right? It happens after childbirth too, right? We go through
Mm.
that where we're like tapping into, what does society say I'm supposed to look like or be like right now?
Yeah, it is crazy, really, isn't it? It's not about
Yeah.
society, it's about
Yeah.
us and how we feel in ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then there's the whole area around breaking promises to yourself. Like, I know a lot of my clients would feel a lot of guilt and shame around that. They, wake up on a Monday morning and say, right, today I'm gonna be wonderful. And then by the end of the day, they've eaten something they weren't supposed to eat, and they beat themselves up, and
Yeah.
they have all this guilt and shame around it,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, because you just have to accept it and say okay, and just take every moment and take every day as it comes.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that breaking promises myself. There were many Mondays where I was like, today's the day, and then by Wednesday I was just off. And part of what happened for me there was I didn't want to be on a diet. Like, I did not want to be restricting myself. I didn't want to feel like, that I was on a diet, honestly. And I love this, Margaret. This is one of the things we talked about, is like, you approach food in your programs like you're not on a diet, right? Because I've been there many times. I did not want to do that. I just wanted to be able to step into a new way of being, a new lifestyle. But I also wanted that weight to be gone right now, right? So when I finally like hit rock bottom, I was like, look, I'm just going to start. This is how I'm going to live my life. If I lose a pound a week and it takes however long to like come back into whatever my body's supposed to look like right now, let's do it, right? But I would find that where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do it. And then I'd break the promise to myself. Part of the reason I break the promise is because I didn't want to be restricting myself.
No, you're absolutely right. And that is something that I really don't agree with at all. Like, this whole diet, even the word diet, the diet is supposed to be like, if you think of a dog's diet, you think of the food that they eat. Whereas we say, I'm going on a diet, in inverted commas, like, and it immediately puts you into a feeling of lack, like, or depriving yourself. I can't have this and I can't have that. I don't subscribe to that theory at all. I think it's the wrong mentality. You're heading into it nearly setting yourself up for failure from the start.
Absolutely. And I think it went that, and that's a great point, because I feel like that was contrary to all the other work that I do, right? In terms of, helping people to be more abundant and helping people to live in that space of abundance and break away from lack. And I think that's why when I would try to go into that space of dieting, my energy body was like, no, that's not alive, because it's true. It's not the way. It is a lack mentality. It is. And that whole calorie restriction, I mean,
it's crazy.
We've learned that that's not the way, right? It's not calories in or calories out. It's not even low fat, right? And I know that you teach this. That's not the way. And that's very lack, that's a lack mentality too.
Absolutely. And part of that, I suppose, we can blame on the food industry and how they advertise, because even the subliminal messages, that whole low fat thing, like that's actually not the way to do it at all. Our body needs good fats, but they have 0% fat on this, or low sugar. And then when you start looking at the ingredients and you realize, oh my gosh, there's so many different forms of sugar in this. So it's all this kind of blinkering, trying to get you to buy something. It's, for them to make a profit, as opposed to giving yourself healthy food. So, we do cover an awful lot around that, because it's really important to start understanding about reading labels and all that kind of thing, So absolutely, I agree with you around that,
That's an interesting thing too, because I've, always been someone that tried to eat whole foods, not processed foods, like, because from that health perspective, I looked at it that way. But now I found myself looking from a different perspective at labels and looking at the things that were, lower fat, lower calorie, like lower sugar or whatever, and being like, oh my gosh, these healthy foods aren't healthy either, right? Or they have unhealthy oils in it. I mean, and we don't want to like, stress about that too much, because any change that you make towards being healthier is good, right? But I really was the observer of how they were targeting people that are trying to lose weight by using certain language, keto,
Yeah.
paleo, Whole30, this, that, or the other thing, like, come eat my food. It's going to support you on your diet, and it was just like, get me out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so that's all very, very interesting, and I think people will get a lot of value from this. So why don't you share now a little bit about the point where you decided you needed to take action? Like, what was the final trigger that made you say, okay, I just have to do this, and then you actually did it?
Yeah, I mean, I think any like big step, if you look, is preceded by smaller things. And so, I began to have awareness that I was crashing after eating, where I would eat and then I just felt so tired. And that wasn't like me. So I knew, as someone who's in healthcare and wellness, like I knew that something was definitely off with my hormones and the way that my body was managing, you know, insulin and glucose, right? So
Yeah,
because I was
yeah, absolutely.
crashing and I was having changes in energy. As well, I was starting to have hot flashes, which I
Right.
hadn't had through menopause. And
Mm,
I know that a lot of people don't realize that that is impacted by diet. And so I remember going to an acupuncturist and saying, I'm having hot flashes and my hormones are off, even some heart flutters. And so I knew that I knew that I wasn't in a good, healthy place. My digestion was off. But truthfully, the
mm,
thing that was the final straw was we were away on vacation, weekend getaway. And there were some photos of me. Like there was a photo of me. There was a beautiful lake with the light flickering off it. And I was just
mm.
sitting, kind of taking it in, maybe not meditating, but just being one with it, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And my boyfriend took a picture of me from behind, and I just looked so wide. And there was just something about it that I didn't like. It was like when I said, oh, I'm not going to use that photo. But then there was a photo that he took of me. We had an outdoor shower, and I love outdoor showers in nature.
Yeah.
We were like glamping, we rented this really cool, like retro camper on this campground or whatever. So they had an outdoor shower, and I was going to the outdoor shower, I had a towel wrapped around me, and I'm
Mm,
happy because I love it.
yeah.
But the picture did not even look like me from the
Okay.
standpoint of size of me. But
Mm,
I read energy, right? So I looked at the energy of me and it wasn't the same. Like I could see that my light or something was somehow dimmed, and
ah,
it
okay.
shocked me. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, first of all, that needs to be deleted. And unfortunately, he did delete it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I would show it as a before and
Yeah.
after photo.
Yeah.
I think the last like maybe 10 pounds that I gained, I had stopped weighing myself, like,
Yeah.
and because I didn't want to know. And then
Mm,
that photo sort of showed it all to me. And that's where I was like, Monday, I'm done. But I think I also knew at that point that it wasn't just weight or size. It was, as an energetic being,
mm,
I was not in a good energetic place, at this weight. And
yeah.
like, to speak about energy, I know a lot of your audience maybe doesn't have an understanding of that, but like I was over consuming in this online world, um messages from like business coaches and online coaches and like, trying to learn this business. And I realized I was over consuming not just food, but energetically over consuming. And so I needed to like go inward and find like home in myself again. And that included my relationship with, with eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's very interesting. And I know a lot of my clients, when they come to me first, they would have like they've been on holidays or something, and
Yeah.
somebody's taken a photograph of them,
Yeah.
and it has just shocked them. And it
Yeah.
shocks you into action, really, doesn't it? So it is
Yeah.
interesting that you experienced that as well, CarolAnne.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and thank you for sharing that. And I know you've touched a little bit on what you did, but I'm sure people would love to hear a little bit more about how you did get such an amazing result. Because I know you lost over 30 pounds in total, which is amazing. And in a short enough space of time. We won't get into how long it takes because
Yeah.
it's not about that.
Right.
But I'd love to, maybe to share a little bit more about what you did. I know you use obviously a holistic approach, which is incorporating all three aspects of you, mind, body, and spirit, which is why I believe you got such an amazing result. And what I do in my own program in teaching my clients how to actually go inside and learn to fall in love with themselves again. So I'd love to hear a little bit more. I'm sure the clients would love to hear,
Yeah.
you know, about what you actually did. And I'm very confident that you will never go back to your old habits, which is one of the biggest issues I do see with clients. You know, it is about lifestyle and habits. So I'd love you to share a little bit more about that, CarolAnne, please.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I was fortunate enough during that time to be going through this master's program, getting this advanced certificate in mind body medicine. And we talked a lot about the nervous system and nutrition and food, from the standpoint of health and wellness.
Mm,
And they had talked in that program about intermittent fasting as and its benefits from a health perspective.
mm,
And I had tried it before, but it didn't help me because
yeah.
I wasn't approaching it from the standpoint of losing weight. Like I was just kind of doing it in this other way, and it didn't help me lose the weight.
Yeah, what's really important is you do need to have some guidance around it. You need to understand what you're doing,
I
you
agree.
know, and that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there was a component of that, but the biggest thing was dropping into my mindfulness and meditation practice and being the observer of myself around food, around my nervous system, understanding
Mm,
ourselves deeply and the way that our nervous system is being affected by life is huge. And the ways that I was using food as pleasure, as a way to
yeah.
get that hit of dopamine or oxytocin or serotonin, and just to summarize, the happy
Yeah.
hormones, the things that I was feeling beneath, that I was covering in food, and even just the heaviness, the things that I was holding energetically, because a lot of your people won't understand that, but what we hold energetically manifests itself in the physical. And so I began to really
Mm,
apply why that mindfulness, to see why was I eating, not just when or what or how much. And am I really hungry right now, or is there something I need, and am I comfortable expressing that need? The
yeah.
emotions during eating, really sitting in and looking at the stressors and the fears in my life at that moment, things that I needed to change, address, not hide in food.
Mm,
Cravings, you mentioned cravings before,
yeah.
looking at cravings and go, what is this? What am I really craving? Right. And to your point, we realize that we really need to be met with more compassion, with more self-love, with more patience.
Mm,
There definitely were habits. I had fallen off of some habits, and the habit loop, we talked about the habit loop, Margaret. I know it's a big thing that you do in your program. The
yeah.
habit loop is amazing, and just sort of shifting and changing some of the habits that I had developed, and then embracing and embodying new habits, changing mindset. A lot of the stuff that I do is what is the story that you're telling yourself about life right now? There were a
Yeah.
lot of stories I needed to tell myself
Mm,
about food and eating that shifted,
yeah.
I'm rambling, but it was really the key, and the thing that took it beyond, healthy eating or eating a certain way, was why am I eating? And even more importantly, what does myself need? And
Yeah.
often it was love, it was understanding, it was support, it was asking for help, it was those sorts of things, right? And then when I began to be able to meet myself on that level, that connection to food changed and shifted.
Mm.
Does that
No,
make sense?
absolutely. You're so right, CarolAnne. You know, and the essence of the program is that it's not about the food.
Yeah.
That's kind of my tagline now, because of course you need to understand, you know, how to eat and what to eat and all of that, but really it's about so much more. The mindfulness piece is like the missing link, you know, is the key to the lifetime success, and
Yeah.
that is really the difference, you know. And I mean, you know, our ongoing chats over the last number of months, CarolAnne, have also given me an additional insight, both for me and my clients. You know, some of my clients, particularly at menopause, you know, they find they get great results initially, and then they can get stuck. And these new practices really help enormously to get over that, you know. And I
Yeah.
suppose just to share a little bit about what's been going on for me recently, because I know a number of people have noticed I got very quiet over the past 2 years. So during COVID, it wasn't just about COVID. I was going through my own personal journey. Sadly, I lost my father in 2021, and then my sister last October. and they had both been quite ill. So I was in a caring role, a caregiving role. And my mom is still there, obviously. So I'm still caregiving. But I was going through my own personal stuff and obviously grieving, and I didn't have the emotional energy to be able to help other people, I suppose, while I was going through that journey. And I've come to a place now where I'm ready to help people again. And I appreciate everybody for giving me the space that I needed to heal, I suppose, and to grieve in my own way. But I feel very strongly now that it's really important that I use the skills that I have and the energy that I have now to help people again on their journey. And I've brought new practices that we've spoken about into my own personal life, and actually have brought a number of upgrades to my own clients as well. So, we're always working on ourselves too. As I said, I did gain a few pounds, which I have lost by applying new techniques as well. But I'm feeling so much better in my body. My digestion is so much better. My energy is better. I'm sleeping better.
Don't you think that's amazing? Like, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
And thank you for sharing your story so vulnerably, because I know that was a difficult time for you. But, and so in many ways, it feels like, to me, it felt like I came home in my body, because this body is amazing. It's miraculous, right? The way that digestion works, so the way that energy works, it's like, when I don't mean like the woo energy, like I normally talk about, like having energy and vitality, maybe vitality and sleep, like those things. Our body, we were born knowing how to do those things, like without effort, right? And so having that feeling that, wow, everything's kind of flowing and clicking again, it's such a powerful thing. Like, you're just like, wow, I'm back to my essence, right? I'm back in my body, and I'm home, and it's working and flowing the way that it's supposed to, which really frees us up for so much more like brilliance and creation, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that lightness that you were talking about, you do experience that. You feel so much better, and I suppose it's interesting, having this conversation, CarolAnne, when people come to me initially for me to help them, it's just about the weight. That's all that they're focused on and all they think about. But they get so many more benefits than just the weight. In fact, the weight ends up not even being the key benefit. I mean, some of the key results that they get, obviously, if they apply what we teach, they will reach their ideal weight and know how to keep it off, but they'll get so many other tangible results, like the knowledge and the toolbox to help them to make healthy food choices all the time, but their daily routines and habits around, not just around tracking food and exercise, but also around mindfulness, and bringing that into their lives is going to give them such an inner depth and an inner strength and such a wonderful shift in their lives, I suppose, giving them control over food and, not being impacted by craving. Sorry, you were going to say something there.
No, I don't want to interrupt you. I was just going to agree.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's not just about, the tangible benefits, but it's about, I suppose, the feelings, being happy in your own skin, feeling empowered, all the things you were talking about, CarolAnne, feeling that whole acceptance and self-love, falling in love with yourself again, increased confidence, more energy, mental clarity, and even, as you said, even your relationships with your loved ones improved, the work-life balance. There's so many things. I could go on for ages about that, but just to kind of give a flavor of the type of things that you actually experience,
Yeah, and I love that you said that people, I say it all the time, I love that you said that. No, I love this conversation. They come to you like all they see is the weight loss, and a lot of that, like we said, is society tells us we're supposed to look a certain way, and we don't even know that we need those other things, right? Like, I didn't know that losing weight was going to make me feel different or shift other things that needed shifting. Like I didn't even necessarily know that those things needed shifting until I felt myself lifted out of it. And that really happens. And on the spiritual journey, like we're both kind of doing the same work in some ways, helping other people come back home and love and fall in love with themselves. You know, in my work often will come by way of, you know, the mind, sometimes by way of the body, but more maybe pain, but by the mind, like feeling stuck in life or having trouble with relationships or struggling with the transition, right? And a lot of people come to a spiritual journey because they just can't do it anymore. I can't go on like this anymore for whatever the reason, right? It's unmanageable. My life as it is right now is unmanageable. And a lot of times that's what brings people to the spiritual journey. For me, it was after the death of a loved one, right? That just made me look at my life and see the priorities are wrong. But I always say there's more than one doorway in. Like we all have a different doorway into the work of self-love. We all have a different doorway into coming back home to who we truly are. And yours is weight loss, and you know, mine is through this practice of energy. But I am so grateful that I got to experience this, like this body doorway, if you know what I mean. Coming in by way of the body, because it gives me such a broad sense of empathy for the struggles of so many people, right? And having this deeper understanding of some of the things that are under there, and how these tools that I've spent the last, you know, 15 years of my life embodying and embracing and sharing with others, how they apply here in weight loss as well. And when you and I talked about our programs, I was shocked to see how much overlap there was. Like I'm so wowed by you that this is the way that you've been approaching weight loss, you know, for so long, because I think a lot of people aren't, right? And to your point, a lot of people maybe lose weight and they can't keep it off, or they lose weight and they get stuck. Like this is the thing. This is the thing. That, you know,
you're right. It's all about a shift in mindset. Like they have to actually shift their mindset and you know, change the whole perception, the whole perspective, I suppose, you know. And you know, I'm really excited about this connection, CarolAnne. I mean, as I said, we've known each other for a long time, but we haven't actually connected over weight loss before. So what we've actually decided to do is to collaborate and set up a new Facebook group where we're going to be sharing so many of these things and actually helping people on their weight loss journey. We're going to combine both of our expertise and sharing tools to teach everyone how to lose the weight and keep it off for good. And also learn how to embrace mindfulness and self-love. And I'm really excited about this. We'd love you all to come on the journey with us. We're going to be sharing the details of the new Facebook group below. And we're going to be doing lots of other exciting things as we go along. We'll be doing many Facebook Lives and lots of other things as well. So we would absolutely love if you would come along and join us in this journey. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I think, even, correct me if I'm wrong, but like beyond weight loss, it's like there's so much around body image and about self-love and about self-empowerment. You know, it's not just weight loss, or just even about like, you know, choosing healthier choices or keeping promises to yourself. I mean, like, even if you don't have weight to lose, I think that there are so many of us that can benefit from conversations around, you know, around those other topics as well, right?
Absolutely. So listen, we've gone on long enough. I hope you enjoyed our chat, and it will be recorded and put into the group afterwards anyway, so you'll be able to find it. But please join our new Facebook group, because you're going to be loving it every day, and there's going to be lots of exciting stuff in there. So we're going to sign off for now, and thank you so much, CarolAnne, for sharing everything, because I know you went quite deep with a lot of stuff, and we're going to be touching on a lot of these issues, but going deeper on different issues as we go along in the group. So please join us, and we'd be delighted to see you there. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.